Hey parents, here's a news flash. You really don't have control of your teenagers. Now, you probably know that deep down. I may be the first one that has actually said it out loud to you. Well, I take that back too, is that my guess is that probably your teenagers have been telling you that for years. And although you don't have control of your teenagers, the one thing that you do have is you do have influence over them, and you do have ways to motivate them towards change. And there's actually 3 ways that we change and that we can encourage and influence our kids to change. And it's really how we all kind of change. But before I get to those 3, I want to first talk about kind of that foundation of love, and that you're communicating that with your teenagers. I know oftentimes when we get involved and our teenagers are just going off and it's tense and we're like this all the time and it's always battling like that, sometimes we forget that we love them. Often there's a lot of days we don't even like them. And so I wanted you to step back for a minute and say, how am I communicating love to my kids every single day? And I want you to look at 3 different ways. 1, in a written form, whether it's emails or texting or writing notes, is just to be able to write a quick note to them, say, hey, I love you, I'm thinking about you, and you're important to me. Secondly, by verbally telling them, hey, I love you, I care about you, I know that we're struggling right now, but I want you to know that I do love you. And you know what? And a lot of us say, well, hey, my dad didn't tell me that he loved me when I was growing up, and it's hard for me to do. You know, you got to kind of battle through that and kind of move on and get over that. And then third is by your actions, by touch. You know, putting your hand on their shoulder, putting your arm around their shoulder, giving them hugs, giving them kisses, however you communicate in your family, to be able to have that physical contact with them, because it really just changes things when we come physically in contact with somebody else. So, and what that does is, when you are proactively trying to communicate love to your teenagers, is they get it, whether consciously or subconsciously, that, hey, my dad, my mom have my best interests at heart. And that's really what you want to do. So when you're going in to really resolve problems and really being able to get your teenagers to the point where they're listening to you and they want to work with you, that's very critical. All right, 3 ways your kids change. First way, positive strokes. We are all geared for praise and recognition. And what positive strokes are is really looking for, what is your kid doing right, being able to praise that, recognize that, and acknowledge what they're doing and appreciating it. We like to get it at work. We like to do it get it from our spouses and from people, from our friends, saying, hey, you know, Mark, you're really good at this. And I'm wired that way. I love to get that. So is your teenager. Positive strokes is the most effective technique to induce change in anybody. We all want to rise to that occasion and to be able to be that person that people see us as. For instance, our teenagers want to be mature. They want to be adults. And so when they act mature, recognize that. Say, hey, I love how mature you're behaving. That is great. You're becoming a man, you're becoming a woman, and pretty soon they stand up, they puff their chest out and go, oh yeah, I am mature. Well, pretty soon they want to fit into that mold. So are they absolutely mature like a 25-year-old or a 35-year-old? No. But you know what? If they have this much maturity in them, recognize that. Fan that flame a little bit and get them going. Positive strokes, the best thing you can do. The second way the kids change, positive consequences. That is, they get what they want when they meet or comply to the requests of the parents. This is how the world works. So often we give and give to our kids, and then we take things away, you know, when they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Well, that's not how my job works. I don't get a paycheck on the first of every month, and then at the end of the month, my job comes to say, hey, Mark, you didn't show up for this day, and this day, and we're going to go and take that money back. It's just not the way the world works. So as we move into the teenage years with our kids, is we have to change up our parenting style as moving away from the littler kids, where we're more dictate what they should do, and really start working the way the world works. So for instance, you take the things that they really want to do, video games, cell phone, those things, and you take their responsibilities, and when they complete their responsibilities, they get the things that they want. Kids' number 1 job, take care of his homework and his grades. And so when he does his homework, then he earns rights and privileges to those things that he wants. And you can't do it in a long, hey, if you get good grades this quarter, we're going to give you a cell phone. Kids' attention span just isn't that long. You have to shorten it up a little bit. And even for most kids, until they really learn how to take responsibility, you may have to shorten it up for a 24-hour period. Okay, when you finish your homework on Tuesday night, you can have your cell phone on Wednesday. From that time on till Wednesday. When they get home from school, you get the cell phone back and it starts all over. Hey, if you get your homework done on Wednesday night, you get the cell phone for the next day. That's how the world works. When we take care of our responsibilities, then they get what they want. We get our paycheck. There's no nagging involved. You just say, hey, when you get your homework done, you get your cell phone. Take as long as you need. And you let the kid take the challenge and the responsibility, and you do it in very short increments, especially if they're not used to that. And as they get more used to it, then you go for a week. When you get your homework done for a week, then you get certain privileges over the weekend. All right, so we have positive strokes, we have positive consequences, all laid in a foundation of love, which is very critical. And the third way that kids change are negative consequences. Now, negative consequences are when they break particular house rules and don't function and do the things that, or they really break rules. And so what negative consequences are is they lose privileges for those broken rules. Case in point, kid breaks curfew, then you take away everything that kid has for 24 hours. Okay, you take everything away for a short period of time. What that means is no video games, no cell phone, no car, no skateboard, no anything like that for those 24 hours, because you can't ground a kid for 2 weeks, because after the third day the kid's forgotten why he's grounded, and it just is not effective. You remove all the TV, everything out of his room, and he loses that, and then you give it all back to him. And he gets to try it again. A kid learns through repetition. So you take it away, you give it back to him. You take it away, you give it back to him. You take it away, you give it back to him. Eventually a kid gets, oh, when I do this, I lose this. When you do the same thing over a 3-month period, oh, you're grounded for 3 months, or you can't do this until we get your report cards, you get this thing back, you really lose the effectiveness of it. The longest kind of the period of time should be is about 3 days for the most heinous of crimes, because a kid, we all want to ground them for 2 weeks, but they just don't get it, they don't see it. You want to give a kid a lot of opportunity to be able to learn that lesson. All right, so let's recap. You don't control your kids, you can only influence them. And you do control things. You control all the things in their world. So you want to lay a foundation of love. You want to be able to communicate that you do love your child, your son, your daughter. And then they use the 3 ways to help influence them. Positive strokes, positive consequences, and negative consequences. This is Mark Todhunter with your Parenting Moment. Thank you very much, and go out there and love your kids.